Is the biggest fight in boxing, Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford, about to be made? And what do people think about this fight? Do they think Terence Crawford genuinely believes he can beat Canelo Alvarez? Do we genuinely think Terence Crawford can beat Canelo Alvarez? Or is this just one big cash grab, as so often these fights are? In this video, I'm going to be getting into all of that. I'm going to be assessing the boxing scene, what people are saying about this fight, reacting to sound bites and clips, and overall just trying to create a picture of where this fight is at and how I think at this stage it might play out. So stick around to the end, guys, as we dive into the mega fight that is Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Bud Crawford. Hello everyone, welcome back to A Guy Called Henry. Guys, this fight, and by this fight I mean Canelo Alvarez against Terence Crawford. When I first heard about this, I think this was maybe a year ago, whispers started circulating. Terence Crawford wants to fight Canelo Alvarez. I immediately thought this is insanity. But the more it's spoken about, the more it's thought about, the more it makes sense. And I think that we might be about to get this one. The rumors are that it's potentially going to happen in September. And it's a huge, huge fight because we've got a Mexican, we've got an American, and we all know that those two nations absolutely love each other right now. So it would be a gigantic clash, a monumental clash. And it really gets the imagination going because it's that thing of, when someone moves up in weight, when someone as good as Terence Crawford moves up in weight, not just up in weight, but moves up to from 140, sorry, it was 135 to 140 to 147. He then goes to 54 and wins a title. If he then jumps up all the way to 168, skipping 160 entirely, and he goes in there, and he's able to beat Canelo Alvarez, who is one of the modern greats and will go down in history as one of the best fighters to ever do it, is considered probably a top, maybe if he's not top 5 pound for pound anymore, he's definitely a top 10 pound for pound. It would be absolutely incredible. And it's a real throwback to the days of Hagler and Hearns and Sugar Ray Leonard, Duran. These guys used to jump around the weight classes and come up against bigger men, but because they were so good, they would really want to test themselves. So in this video, I'm going to try something a little bit new today. So I would love you to get in the comments section below and let me know what you think about this style. If this is something you want to see more of. You know I do my reactions to the face-offs and interviews and things like that. Today, I'm just going to be doing a trawl through X. I've bookmarked a few different things. I've not really looked at them properly, but I've seen a few interesting, prominent people in the boxing world giving their early thoughts on this fight, how they think it would go, whether they think it's real, a few old comments from Canelo and a few old comments from Crawford, to try and piece together where we're at, basically. So before I get into this, do bang a like on the video if you enjoy it. Do subscribe to A Guy Called Henry if you're new. And without further ado, let's get into the first clip. So first up, we've got a post here from Ring Magazine, and they have posted, whatever the hell we call it now. It's X, I'm not sure what it is. But anyway, Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford is reportedly now in process for being finalized for September in Las Vegas. Fight will take place at 168 pounds for Canelo's super middleweight world titles with no rehydration clause, and that is via Mike Coppinger. So that is fascinating on a couple of levels. One, the fact that there's no rehydration clause, and we're going to look at another clip about that in a moment. But the fact it's 168, I already mentioned in my sort of intro. Insanity to me that Crawford is skipping 160 and going straight up to 168. Now, that is where the money is. If you're Crawford and you're fighting once a year, you want to maximize your earning potential before the end of your career. I totally understand the logic of it. But the fact he's going to be in the ring with a much, much bigger, more powerful Canelo, it is hard to look past Canelo at this stage. But that no rehydration clause, I wonder how legit that is. But then I see this from Buddy McGirt. But then I see this post from Bomac. And let's just hear what he has to say.
That's some pussy shit. That's some weak shit. Oh, you can't come in this much and shit. Oh, man, get the fuck out of here. It's boxing. You got on the scale. I made the weight. Regardless when I come back, ass. Hey, you accepted the fight. Let's get in there and fight like me. Simple as that.
All right, so an interesting little quote there from Bomac. I think that my initial reaction to that is I believe that sentiment from that camp because they've always been very straight and talking, and I've always felt that they're incredibly ambitious and hardcore, and they don't mess around because they so believe in the ability that Crawford has. But what I would say is that I don't think there's any chance you get Canelo in the ring with a rehydration clause for that fight, and so I would do the same thing if I was them. I would, even if it's legit, I would posture as if that's exactly what I wanted all along. I don't want you to have a rehydration clause. I want you in there at your maximum possible size and weight. So it's an interesting one. I don't know if that's truly what they think or truly what they want, but the reality of the situation is that there's no chance you're getting Canelo in the ring with Crawford with a rehydration clause because he is the A side. Canelo makes so much money. Together, they make a massive, massive fight. Crawford still generates good revenue himself. He's a big fighter in America, but you just aren't going to get Canelo in the ring with that rehydration clause. And to be honest with you, I don't really hate it, because even though the size discrepancy will be quite large, I hate rehydration clauses. I really do. We're seeing it at the minute with Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. And all it does is create excuses for the fighter if they lose. It's dangerous, most importantly. A dehydrated brain getting punched in the head is unbelievably dangerous. We already have enough issues in the game with fighters, rehydrating and having to cut weight. We see it with Jaron Ennis at the minute. It looks to me that he looks pretty tight at 147. In particular, because with the IBF specifically, you have a rehydration clause that you have to meet. There's a check weight you have to meet on the day of a fight. So there's a lot of issues with that in boxing already. I don't like it when there are further stipulations in the contract with regards to weight. Some fighters will even abuse it, and look at Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, when he came in a few pounds overweight, and having that extra size when there's an agreed weight. One guy's like, well, I thought this was the weight, and I've only just found out now this guy's going to pay a fine and be bigger, could potentially really affect your career, because those extra pounds make all the difference. Now, in this instance, I like the fact there's no rehydration clause, and at least that way Crawford can get into the ring at the weight he wants, and you know what you're dealing with. I don't think it's fair when something's agreed and then someone goes against it, even if the other man stands to make a load of money. You can't really pull out last minute. It's one of those things where there's too much on the line, there's too much pressure to go and have the event. So I like the fact there's no rehydration clause, but it's going to be a massive size difference on the night. Now, a couple of converse clips here, talking about Crawford's motivations going into this one. Some people saying it's a cash grab, some people saying it's because he wants to be truly great. Let's look at two old clips. There's one from Joe Rogan here, so let's take a look at this first.
Then you're in like the greatest of all time discussion.
I'm already in them
them
discussions. But I'm saying, but what would they say though?
They
Three-time undisputed champion and the smaller fighter that went up 3 weight divisions to conquer one of the baddest mans besides himself that's been doing it for probably longer than me.
So you said 68, but you mean 54, right?
No, 68.
You want to go up to 68. So
Yeah.
so who would you fight at 68? Canelo?
If he win, or Charlo, the winner.
Wow. That would be crazy.
I want to be 3-time undisputed.
To jump up and then
And that's an interesting clip there. Sorry for the janky recording we're using. I've literally just gone through X and seen what was trending, and I've just chucked it up. So apologies for the low quality Joe Rogan clip there. But regardless, Crawford there talking that he wants to be great. But the fact that he didn't just want Canelo there, he wanted whoever the guy was that would allow him to become, again, an undisputed champion. That says a lot. And not only is he skipping 160 because there's not really a money fight there, but also there's nobody undisputed at 160. So it actually does make a lot of sense. He probably doesn't have time left in his career to go and unify another division. But if you can do it in one shot, like you can do against Canelo, then you've got a chance. So very, very interesting. Look, I admire his mindset. I admire his ability. I think he can do it. It's going to be a tough ask, though. So there you kind of have this narrative that it's all about greatness for Crawford. It's all about, going out, being the best and achieving something incredible, going down in history. But then you have this other clip here. So this guy, Ray Jackson, has tweeted, Crawford letting us all know that the Canelo fight is just for a payday. I knew 168 was too much for him. So let's have a look at this.
What's the highest you could fight at, realistically?
I would say 154. Yeah, I think 154 will be my max. Given the age, I'm about to be 36 years old.
Right.
In September, so I got to take that in consideration as well.
What's the highest you could fight at, realistically?
So there you go. Crawford being interviewed there, saying that he felt 154 was the highest he could go to. Not sure where that clip was taken from or when it was recorded, but very clearly saying that he thinks 154 is his limit. And, I think there's a lot of people out there that would go along with that. He didn't have the easiest time against Madrimov, although Madrimov, a very, very different kind of fighter from Canelo. He's very quick feet, good pressure fighter, very, very athletic. And actually, Madrimov looked massive in that fight as well. I'd love to know what he weighed on the night. Probably not far off. He could even, 154, he could have put on 20 pounds and been around 174 potentially. So yeah, interesting. And two contradictory statements there. One where he's saying, imagine going up. And I presume that was before the Rogan interview. So interesting. And you do wonder, does that mean he's got limiting beliefs in his head? Does he actually think he can do this? Or is this literally just, fuck it, F it, it's one shot. you know, it's one shot, it's one night, maybe, but he doesn't really think he could compete at 168. So I guess, though, there are a number of ways he can create a narrative in his head that it is possible. And a lot of that will come from the fact that, you know, Canelo spent a lot of his career at 154, at 160, before going up to 168 and then eventually up to 175. So it's very interesting. It's very complicated and detailed. I think we can all agree that Crawford would be extremely small as a 168. He'd probably be a small 160 as well. 154, I think he can just about do it. But he is a 147, really, in my opinion. So, look, whether or not he really fully believes he can win this fight, I believe by the time he gets to fight night, he will believe he can win this fight. And that's what's important. But regardless, we all know that the money element is, of course, huge. Otherwise, why would you not do it at 154 and try and unify there? I think he's got a belt there already. I suppose it's a few fights. It is one straight shot, though, and it's a huge amount of money. And I do believe he will be able to get his mindset to the place where he feels like he can do it. So I don't buy this narrative that it's fully a cash grab, but I do think that the payday is a massively decisive factor in whether or not Crawford goes to this fight. But I do think that greatness is a massive component of this, because we've seen it from Crawford time and time again. He wants greatness, and I do believe that. The next thing I want to know is how seriously Canelo is taking Crawford, because we all know how much money Canelo can make by fighting guys like Berlanga, who are no competition for him, really. There's definitely been slippage in Canelo recently and over the last couple of years. He hasn't fought really top opposition for a while now. Crawford, in terms of talent, is the best fighter he would have fought in a while, but and also stylistically, I can't wait to do the breakdown for this. As soon as this fight gets made, I can't wait, because it's an intriguing matchup to me. Canelo's not fought anyone fast in quite a long time. That's what intrigues me about it. But and just Crawford's overall talent, I wonder if there's a way he can do it. But let's listen to this clip of Canelo a while back talking about the fight. Let's see what he says. This is a clip from Sway in the Morning.
If the numbers were right with Crawford, you'll do it.
Why not? Why not? I think Crawford don't get me wrong. He's a great fighter. But for me, in my weight class, it's an easy fight. For me, easy money. So if the money is right, I'm in.
If the numbers were right with Crawford.
So there you go. Canelo says, why not? Don't get me wrong. He's a great fighter, but for me in my weight class, it's an easy fight, easy money. If the money is right, I'm in. So the thing is, though, he says, if the money is right, I'm in. But I think he could have fought him already, probably. He's been pretty against the fight before. I think that Canelo knows that Crawford is a bigger risk than someone like Berlanga. I think the money is bigger, but the fact that he's instantly said it's an easy fight, but it's about the money, whether it gets made or not. If it's that easy, you're not that worried about the money. If it's that easy, you go, you know what? Whatever I got for Berlanga, I'll take for Crawford. I think he knows that Crawford is a greater puzzle, but also he's a bigger risk to Canelo's legacy, and that is the big thing for Canelo, I think. If he loses to Crawford, I think it really damages his legacy. I really do. Whereas for Crawford, I mean, it would elevate him to a level. He would go down as one of the absolute all-time greats, and you're starting to talk about him as being better than Floyd Mayweather and better than a lot of these guys. So very, very fascinating. Just want to hear from a couple of boxing industry experts to see what they make of this matchup and their early thoughts on whether or not Crawford could actually pull this off if the fight gets made. So first off, we've actually got a clip here from Bomac talking about the strategy they would potentially use to beat Canelo. So let's hear what he has to say here.
Like you say, Canelo don't, he'll stand in front of you, but he got good head movement. It does move his legs a lot, so it'd be easier to box him, I wouldn't even think about power or nothing like that. Just boxing, just add up the points as the round goes on. And then, just some side-to-side movement, little movement here, little movement there. Try to get him to move his feet, so he won't be set when he get ready to punch.
Do you have to fight off the back foot against Canelo if you're Bud Crawford?
I say you got to fight on your toes. I would say that, with that side-to-side movement.
Yeah.
Guys like that, man, you got to get them to move their feet. You get in and out, side-to-side, head movement, feints, get him to come to you a little bit. Like you said.
Very interesting there from Bomac, and I think that's a pretty obvious strategy to get Canelo moving his feet. Canelo hasn't got the fastest feet. They're pretty slow. The thing he does very well is he creeps his feet into range, and he makes you feel like you're not there. He's not there because he has that good hip movement. He gets his head back. The reality is he's edging his feet closer all the time. And with a puncher, the best way to fight them is to make them not be able to set their feet, because that's how you get your power. So things that Bomac has said, they're very basic. He's not really giving too much away. But the fact he doesn't say that Crawford has to be going backwards, but he does have to be on his toes is very, very interesting to me. And it will be all about constant movement, angles. He's going to have to be very, very active with his jab, Crawford. You saw the way that Bivol did it, and I don't think it would look... Look, Crawford doesn't pendulum step the way Bivol does. He doesn't have the constant foot movement that Bivol does. And what interests me is how hard does Crawford actually punch? Because he seems like he punches incredibly hard for his size. But the reality is, with the way that Bivol fought was what Bomax just described there. But can Crawford do that for 12 rounds against a guy who's a lot bigger than him? The thing is, he might be able to do it for long enough to win the fight because it was a completely dominant display from Bivol when he fought Canelo. It wasn't a close fight. So if he could even replicate 60% of that level, he might be able to do it. It's actually really intriguing. Let's look at a couple of other opinions now about the fight. Let's start with Andre Ward.
Terence Crawford, big weight jump, a dangerous fight, but somebody's got to prove to me that they can break Terence Crawford's will and that he can't figure it out against you. It ain't no disrespect toward Canelo, but I've said this the last couple of years. I'm not betting against Terence Crawford against nobody right now. You got to show me that you can beat him.
I get that perspective. At the end of the day, Crawford is undefeated. He's looked fantastic in pretty much all of his fights. And he is a puzzle to be figured out right now. And can Canelo do it? I don't know. I think a big factor here is how much has Canelo slipped. I know that Ward and Crawford are friendly, so there may be a little bit of bias there as well. But he obviously fully backs Crawford's boxing IQ. We'll go on to the next one. Clip here from Jim Lampley. Let's see what he's got to say. Former HBO boxing commentator, of course.
I'm in no way surprised to see that Terence Crawford has made his point and earned the right from the business structure to fight Canelo Alvarez. Is it logical? Can he win the fight? It's hard for me to imagine how he can hurt Alvarez, who is larger and has, by my lights, the best and most proven chin, the best and most proven punch resistance in the sport. So it's a hard matchup for Crawford. He has to summarily outbox Canelo and avoid getting hurt by one of Canelo's left hooks. It's not impossible, but he's not seeking that fight on the basis of the idea that he's sure to win it, the way he has been in certain other matchups. I'm in no way surprised.
And yeah, that's good point from Lampley there. Canelo's chin is absolutely phenomenal. The thing is, I don't think Crawford can knock Canelo out, but can he punch him hard enough to hurt him? And that is the key, because he says he doesn't think he can hurt him at all. And I'm not sure that that's true. That is where I'm not too sure, because we saw Amir Khan for a few rounds box Canelo enough, and Canelo obviously going to the body and whatnot, but he did enough to get Canelo's attention that he wasn't just literally walking straight down, and he won a few rounds. And that's an Amir Khan who defensively is nowhere near the level that Crawford is. I don't think he punches anywhere near as hard as Crawford. Faster hand speed, but once you get used to the one pace of Khan, he only fights in one stance as well. Crawford is unimaginably more sophisticated than Amir Khan. So it's not a fair comparison, but my point is that you saw a few rounds there, and that was a younger Alvarez, a much faster, and it was a lighter Alvarez too. So I do think Crawford's speed, Crawford's intelligence, his switching of stances, I think all these things are really interesting pieces of the puzzle. The point that a lot of people keep making is that Crawford gets hit quite a bit. He'll take one to give one. You can't do that against Canelo, but he'll know that. Next up, we've got this clip from Buddy McGirt, and just pause that. I'm interested to hear what he has to say, because absolutely legendary trainer, former boxer himself, and I think that this is intriguing because he's actually picking Crawford here. He says Crawford all day long, and he gives a bit of information. So let's listen to this.
Alvarez KO. What?
I have Terence on a decision.
A decision, keeping it on the outside
all day long.
Easy work.
Now, it's not going to be easy now. I think it's going to be a chess match early. First 4 or 5 rounds are going to be a chess match. But I tell everybody, once Terence Crawford stays in the southpaw stance for 2 or 3 straight rounds, he got your number. He got you. If he's switching back and forth, he's trying to figure you out. But once he stays in that southpaw stance for 2 or 3 straight rounds, he got you.
So McGirt there clearly thinks that Crawford will figure him out, and he'll get into southpaw and get comfortable, and then he'll win on points. And I don't know if he's saying that the southpaw stance is the key, or if he's saying once Crawford is in southpaw, it reflects that he's found his comfort, he's found his zone, and he's got your number at that point. Interesting. I need to do more studying to decide if I think southpaw will be a factor in this fight. But it is very, very interesting, because at the end of the day, Canelo doesn't even really use his jab a huge amount. It's more of a rangefinder. He uses it as a bludgeoning tool. And the thing that really is sticking out in my head about this fight is I don't actually think it's a great style matchup for either of them. I mean, it is for Canelo in the sense he's got the bigger size. Crawford, when he's at his best, he's a counterpuncher. He likes to create space. He likes you to lunge in and make mistakes and really go at him. And he'll counter you from those positions. He can box in a way more active way. Absolutely, he can. But that's when he's at his very best. We saw that with the Errol Spence fight. He made Spence lunge in time and time again. And it was a beautiful counterpunching display. It was the best I've seen him. Canelo, likewise, he's a counterpuncher. He does it in a different way where, he'll get into the pocket, he'll move his head a lot, and he'll throw more single power shots. So they go about in different ways, but Canelo isn't somebody who's going to throw loads and loads of punches. And typically, Crawford, he can throw a lot of shots, but again, at his best, he's a counterpuncher. So very, very interesting. It's not like it's an obvious style matchup. Even though he's moving up in weight, it's still not obvious to me that makes sense. But I think the one thing you'll say about Crawford is if he can be perfect, because Canelo is a counterpuncher rather than sort of a come-forward swarm fighter. He is a come-forward counterpuncher, Canelo, but because he's not someone who'll throw loads of punches and swarm you, I mean, the pace of the fight probably won't be too bad, and maybe that's why Crawford really quite fancies it. So it's really, really interesting. We'll finish up with this little clip. Excuse me. We'll finish up with this little clip here of Canelo working his power on the shield. Something we've seen many times, but I'm sure just to strike the fear into anyone who thinks that Crawford might have a chance, let's have a look. Yeah, Canelo looking absolutely fierce there and looking as powerful as ever. Some people saying, the caption from the page Source of Boxing is Canelo working on his power. Don't think he's going to get any more powerful at this point, to be honest with you. But what a fantastic fighter Canelo has been, and watching that, it's great watching him on the pads because the power he does throw, it's absolutely vicious. You can see why he stops so many of his opponents. But anyway, guys, I'm going to call it there. I think we need to wait for more information. We need to wait for this fight to get made before we dissect it in further detail. But some interesting early thoughts there, some interesting early opinions. I settle on the side of Crawford. I think he wants the payday, but I think predominantly it's about greatness. Call me a romantic, but that's just how I feel. I think that he wants that unified title at 168. I think if you ask me for a kind of percentage of what it is, I think it's like 40% about the money, 60% about the shot at greatness, because this is a huge ask for him. It's a huge challenge, and he could lose his undefeated record at the end of the day. For Canelo, he's got nothing to gain by beating Crawford and everything to lose. So for me, it's not about legacy, it's about money, 100%. If he was going for legacy, for me, he fights Benavidez. He doesn't want anything to do with Benavidez. I say this, but look, the history books are going to look back and they're going to go Crawford fought Canelo, and maybe if Canelo does beat him, maybe it does go down as a legacy win. But right now, context and everything, I think you have to say that it's a bit of a soft touch for Canelo. For him anyway, because Crawford is so much smaller. As I say, everything to lose and nothing to gain, really. But from a PR perspective anyway. But guys, I hope you've enjoyed this. As I say, get in the comments below. Let me know if you'd like me to do more of this, going through social media, finding posts, reacting to them, and kind of feeling what the narrative is out there around a fight, around a rumor, whatever it is. Let me know if you've enjoyed this. If you have, I'll definitely do more of them. As I say, subscribe to the channel. Get your comments in below. Do you think Crawford can beat Canelo? That's what I want you to answer me. And do you think this fight will get made? Why do you think Crawford's doing this? Why do you think Canelo's doing this? Hope you've all enjoyed this one. And as I always say, on to the next one.